I can still hear him when the house is quiet. When the wind doesn't rattle the windows and the plumbing finally stops groaning through the walls, I can hear the slow, deliberate scratching beneath the floorboards, like nails dragging on old wood, like someone waiting. They told me not to move in. Not directly, of course. People don't know how to say those things without sounding like they're crazy. The realtor said the last owner left suddenly, and the neighbors offered only sideways glances and tight-lipped nods when I introduced myself. But I was desperate. A rundown Victorian on the edge of a forest for half its value. I didn't have the luxury of suspicion. My divorce had left me with barely enough to cover rent, let alone own anything. This house was a goddamn miracle, or so I thought. The first night I didn't unpack. I threw a mattress on the floor of the upstairs bedroom, drank too much wine, and tried not to think about how quiet it was. City quiet. The kind where every creak sounds like an intrusion. I remember lying in the dark, staring at the ceiling when I heard it for the first time. A long, slow drag under the floor. I froze. It was subtle. Like a mouse? That's what I told myself. I listened for a while longer, heart thudding, until I convinced myself it was nothing. I should have left then. But you never believe the first warning. You rationalize. You lie to yourself. You pretend a sound in the night isn't someone beneath you trying to get out. The second night, I set up the bed and unpacked enough to feel human again. I was in the kitchen, putting dishes away, when I found something odd under the sink. A wooden box, nailed shut and wrapped with twine. It was tucked behind a rotting pipe, like someone tried to hide it. I pulled it out, curious. It was light, but I could feel something shifting inside, loose, like bones. I didn't open it. I wish I could say I was smart, but it wasn't caution. It was fear, not of what was in the box, but of what opening it might mean. It felt like a warning, like the house was watching, daring me. That night, the scratching returned, only this time it didn't stop. I lay awake for hours, staring into the dark, the sound of fingernails dragging slowly, methodically beneath my bed. I pressed my ear to the floor once. I swear to God I heard breathing. By the end of the week, I started noticing things out of place. The closet light flicked on by itself. My toothbrush ended up in the freezer. My shoes, lined up perfectly by the door, were scattered across the house by morning. I told myself I was just stressed, maybe sleepwalking. Then I saw him. It was just a glimpse, reflected in the mirror above the stairs. A pale face behind me, mouth too wide, skin cracked like old plaster. But when I turned around, there was nothing there. I laughed nervously. "Get it together," I said out loud. But I didn't feel alone anymore, not really. The man came to me in a dream, or at least, I hope it was a dream. I was standing in the upstairs hallway. The wallpaper peeled like dead skin. The air was thick, buzzing. I looked down and saw the floorboards warping beneath my feet, as though something massive was pushing upward. Then a face emerged through the cracks. Sunken eyes, slack mouth, skin stretched over splintered wood like it had been nailed there. His eyes opened. He whispered, "Don't listen to the walls." I woke up screaming. The next morning, I found splinters embedded in the soles of my feet. I started researching the house. No small feat, since it had changed owners 5 times in the last 15 years. No one stayed long. A couple left in the middle of the night without furniture. One owner filed for bankruptcy after tearing up every floorboard and sleeping in his car for months. The one before me, Gordon Hill, was listed as missing, but there was no record of his body being found. I called the realtor. She brushed it off. "People come and go," she said. "Old houses get to people." When I pressed about Gordon, she sighed. He started hearing things, according to the neighbors, talking about voices in the walls, seeing someone under the floor. Then he disappeared. I didn't sleep that night. I started hearing voices too. They weren't loud. Not at first. A whisper behind the wallpaper. A hush that sounded almost like my name. And then the walls began weeping. black moisture, thick and sticky, leaked from the corners of the rooms. I'd wake up to find handprints smeared along the hallway, child-sized, like something clawed its way through. One night, I followed the sound of weeping down to the basement. I'd never dared to go down there before. The door was warped and heavy, and every instinct in me screamed to leave it alone. But the sound of crying, so soft, so human, pulled me in. The basement was unfinished. Dirt floor, stone walls. It smelled like rot and something older, wet soil and copper. I brought a flashlight, but it flickered constantly, and I had to slap it to keep it alive. As I stepped down, the weeping stopped. The silence was too still. I swept the light across the room, and there was a hole in the wall, not a small one, human-sized, carved crudely into the stone, like someone had been digging from the inside. I stepped closer. Something inside shifted. A hand, gray and clawed, reached. Out, I ran. I tried to leave the next morning. Packed a bag, grabbed my keys, didn't even lock the door. But my car wouldn't start. Not just the engine. Everything was dead. No click, no light, nothing. Like something had drained it. I went to call a tow truck, but my phone was blank. Every outlet in the house was dead. Even my watch had stopped. When I checked the time on the stove, it was frozen at 3:13 a.m., the same time I'd seen the man's face in the floor. I stayed in the upstairs hallway that night, too scared to sleep. I sat against the wall with a hammer in one hand and a flashlight in the other, waiting for the sun. But the night didn't end. I watched the clock on the wall tick to 3:13 a.m. Then it stopped, and the scratching began again, louder now. Closer, not beneath the floorboards, but in the walls beside me. Then I heard a voice, a whisper, "Let me out." The drywall bulged, something pressed from inside, slowly, insistently, until the plaster cracked and a pale eye stared through the slit. I screamed and smashed the wall with the hammer. The eye blinked and vanished. I didn't sleep. The next day, the air felt wrong. Stagnant, like the house was holding its breath. The box under the sink, I don't know why, but I went for it. I had to know. I pulled it out, took it to the dining table, and pried it open with a crowbar. Inside were teeth, hundreds of them, human, baby teeth, adult molars, yellowed and bloody, some with gum still attached, all packed tight, with tiny scrawled notes tied around them. Notes like, "He never stops watching. The man in the floor wears my skin. He feeds on us." The last one just read, "Forgive me." I dropped the box and vomited. That night, the floorboards split open. Literally, I was in bed, fully dressed, holding a kitchen knife, when the boards beneath me began to buckle, like something was crawling up from below. I scrambled back as the wood cracked, split wide, and revealed a pit of darkness. Then I saw him. The man in the floorboards. He was longer than he should have been. Arms too thin, limbs bending the wrong way. His head twisted up at me, mouth unhinging in a wet-sucking gasp. His eyes were empty, but they locked onto me like he knew me. He whispered, "You let me out." Then he pulled himself through. I ran through the hall, down the stairs, across the living room. But every door I opened led back to another hallway. The house twisted around me. Impossible geometry. The staircase looped. The windows looked into other rooms. I ran until my legs gave out, and I collapsed on the floor, sobbing. He never chased me. He didn't have to. The house was his. Now I'm still here. I don't know how long it's been. The clocks don't move. The sun doesn't rise. I haven't eaten in days, but I'm not hungry. Not really. The house is keeping me alive, or keeping me for something. The man in the floorboards watches me. I see him in reflections. I hear him in the walls. He whispers things I don't want to understand. Things about skin, about becoming hollow, about wearing me like a suit. I found a mirror yesterday. I stared into it for a long time, and for just a second, I saw his eyes in my face. If someone finds this, if anyone ever reads this, don't come here. Don't look for me. Burn the house. Salt the earth. Because the man in the floorboards is hungry, and I think I think I'm starting to feel empty enough to let him in.